Welcome to Grid Live Pre-Race. Formula One's at Bahrain, a big moment in qualifying. Oscar Piastri claiming the pole. Long Beach, 2 practice sessions done. Can someone beat Alex Palou, stop him from winning 3 in a row? I'm Joe Sandiego. With me, we have Isha Bajwa from Chaos in the Patch and Jessica Ball from Just Games. A big thank you to our Patreon investors calling the show, Mark, Robin, David, and Matthew, for investing in the Grid Network each and every month. Link in the video description. And of course, buy me a coffee, YouTube super chat. We'll thank you on the air, and we encourage everyone tuning in. Share your comments, questions, opinions with us on the air because it is a busy race weekend. Normally we're on air about hour 45 minutes ago, but qualifying was going on. With qualifying just wrapping up, here we are, and we're talking about a McLaren driver who I think it was safe to say we all anticipate McLaren was going to be, as you're showing, was going to be the top 2 fastest. I mean, we saw Oscar Piastri was the fastest feet practice 3, feet practice 2. The first practice session, Lando Norris was the fastest. So it became really, I think, of who would be the pole sitter. In qualifying, snatching it away from George Russell, I thought we might see a Mercedes 1-2. Denied. Oscar Piastri taking that. He is the pole sitter, and his teammate, championship leader, Lando Norris, is starting 6th place. Max Verstappen, 7th place. So this is starting to come to look like a good opportunity for Oscar Piastri to maybe gain some valuable points on both drivers. Just starting with you, can Oscar Piastri run away with the win at Bahrain?
Oscar Piastri definitely has a good shot of winning the race tomorrow. Even quite a lot of teams across the grid were saying that McLaren were looking incredibly fast. I saw Piastri, Gasly's team radio earlier on today saying, oh, those McLarens were quick. And Piastri was like 2 or 3 tenths quicker than the rest of the field. It was absolutely remarkable. He's been consistent all weekend. And even though he wasn't fastest in FP1, he was near Lando Norris in FP1 anyway. So he's been looking either first or second fastest all weekend long. He said the car was hooked up. He loves this track in general. And it's going to be a bit of a redemption for him because, of course, he missed out on getting second place or even the win compared to Lando Norris and Max Verstappen. And there's been some debate going around on whether Piastri should have been let past in the Japanese Grand Prix, but we won't cross that bridge yet. But yeah, his best qualifying was P8. So, out of the McLarens, I was not expecting Piastri to get the pole, but after seeing his form from this weekend, not really that surprising. He topped all qualifying sessions throughout. He looked on top throughout. Was not expecting his teammate to be so far further down, but we know Bahrain's a good track to overtake. Piastri's got some very quick drivers behind him, some dark horses as well. But with his nearest championship rivals down there, I think Piastri, he's just got to capitalise it with both hands, really.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Jess. This qualifying was crazy within itself with Oscar Piastri be able to take that P1 spot with Lando Norris far behind him, and I believe it is P6. Yes, like you said, for Bahrain, I think it might be a little bit challenging because we do have George Russell and Charles Leclerc right behind him. And with it being Bahrain, like you said before, a great chance for overtaking. And like you said before, in the championship standings, Oscar Piastri is doing really well from where he qualified. If he's able to keep that P1 spot with Lando Norris and Max Verstappen, you stay a little bit behind him, I think that he is going to make a great lunge for the championship and for Bahrain in general.
I have to agree with you, especially Isha, that a great launch, no issues. You have no worries or stress about papaya rules coming into effect. It's just go out there, run your own race. You know it's on for Verstappen and Lando to try to catch up to you. It could be a big opportunity for him to make a championship statement, and I think we could really, if we see that, the dynamic between the 2 teammates going forward, it's going to be a fun year. Might be a little stressful at times for the McLaren fans because we've seen what happened in the past, but when you have 2 great drivers this talented and a great car, this could set up for an exciting season. I cannot count out, though, in my opinion, George Russell. George Russell, he's been up there with the McLarens, third and fourth in the 2 practice sessions. Frederick Vesti was in his car for free practice 1, 18th fastest, of course, first time in that car. Qualifying, George Russell, second, and it looked like it was going to be a Mercedes front row. I thought Kimi Antonelli had that, and then here comes Oscar Piastri, then Charles Leclerc with a stellar lap as well, too. We know we've had the winner so far of Lando, Piastri, Verstappen. Isha, could we be saying Russell as the 4th different winner of 2025?
I feel like definitely the way we anticipated the Mercedes to possibly have a front row lockout, they're definitely able to. George Russell's definitely able to defend and win the race again. We'll see how turn 1 is. If George Russell is able to jump against Oscar Piastri and take the lead, easy win for him. If he holds on to the lead, great. But also, there's so many people around him that could also vie for the win. We got obviously Oscar Piastri, George Russell, Charles Leclerc, all at the top 3, and they can all fight. As we said before, Charles Leclerc, he's strong in Bahrain. That's one of his more favorite tracks, so we can't negate the fact that Charles Leclerc is right behind him in P3. But if he's able to keep his head down, be able to take the lead, turn 1, probably in the start of the race, and if strategy's all great, then yeah, I think he could vie for the 4th winner of 2025.
I think he made an interesting point about Charles Leclerc, because remember in 2019 he got his first ever pole position in the Ferrari. Remember we were heartbroken when his engine was starting to lose a bit of power, and Lewis Hamilton took the win. Even as a Lewis Hamilton fan, we were like I wanted Leclerc to win. So I think Leclerc having a strong qualifying is going to have a very very strong footing for the race win tomorrow. He's well ahead of his teammate. It feels like it's the track that's suited for him. In 2022, of course, he was looking quite quick with Max Verstappen, just missed out on the win with that one. But let's draw our attention back to George Russell. I have to say, George Russell, I've said this all season, he has had the strongest start of a season ever. The only time he hasn't got a podium was in Japan last week. But if he qualified higher, I think he would have got a podium. His pace was looking really, really good. And I mean, he's worked well in Bahrain in the past. Remember back in 2020, made his debut in the Sakir Grand Prix, not the Bahrain Grand Prix, the outer layout. Looked very strong with his first race for Mercedes. If it wasn't for the tire mishaps and the puncture, he probably would have got the race win that day. He loves this track. It's a track that's worked well for him in the past. He started second in the outer layout before, which was the same turn 1 as was as the normal layout. Anyway, he went on to take the lead. So starting on the front row, I think he's definitely got a chance to win the race tomorrow, because I think he's on the racing line. He could try and cover off Piastri, and he just missed out on a podium in 2022. But apart from that, in P5 and P6. So I think he's got a really good chance, even though he's got his teammate and Charles Leclerc catching up to him. But Bahrain is definitely one of his strongest tracks, so don't rule him out, especially with how good the Mercedes is at the moment.
The Mercedes, they're looking good. They're looking prime. What I'm going to be really excited about, we talked a little bit about Charles Leclerc, is that second row battle with Leclerc and Kimi Antonelli, the rookie. And I just feel like this could be a fun battle to watch. Who's going to have the clean start? But then it becomes Charles Leclerc. I think you brought up a great point about his first pole in 2019. He likes this track. But Ferrari, they brought an upgraded floor. Looks like it's paying dividends so far. What's going to happen under race conditions? Same time, the Ferrariisms that we've talked about in the past, could they rear their ugly head? And could that allow Kimi Antonelli the experience to go out there, get it? Because he's a rookie. So very likely he can make a mistake. But he has Mercedes, the team that just, when they seem to have a good car, they all seem like almost robotic of the strategy, just getting the most they can for each and every position. So this could be a fun battle between those two for that podium. And of course, Kimi Antonelli wants to become one of the youngest to ever step on a F1 podium. Jess, overall, who do you think is going to finish ahead? Is it going to be Charles Leclerc and the Ferrari team, or the rookie Kimi Antonelli and that mighty Mercedes team?
I kind of went for a bold prediction before this broadcast, but I kind of regret making that prediction after bringing up what I said about Charles Leclerc. I think Charles Leclerc has got a great chance to finish ahead of Kimi Antonelli, but based on the pace that the Mercedes is showing, nothing is stopping Antonelli. But I think the thing that's going to make the difference between Antonelli and Charles, it's all about the experience. Of course, Charles has raced in these F1 cars before around here, and he's been looking quick. Antonelli, maybe not so much, but he has the benefit of the car. I have to say, I've been very impressed with Antonelli this season. He's in majority of the races. He has not been that far behind his teammate. Japan has impressed me, especially with his pace towards the end of the race. If it was 1 or 2 more laps, he would have caught up to George Russell. Australia, bearing in mind there was a safety car, things could change. Things changed there a little bit, but Antonelli has been back. The thing that I liked about the Mercedes Junior outfit compared to the likes of Red Bull, I'm saying it quietly. They have backed Kimi Antonelli for a long time. They're giving him encouraging words, even during testing, and in Bahrain, even in the free practice they did it in the Monza. Even though he made mistakes, Mercedes was like, "Hang on, it's okay. You've got this." They've been encouraging Antonelli all that time. So I think it is going to be an interesting fight. Even though I think Charles Leclerc is going to finish ahead, my heart is hoping for Antonelli to get his first F1 podium in Bahrain, because I think apart from McLaren, Mercedes, I think, are the second quickest car on the grid.
I would have to agree with you, Jess. In my heart, I do want Kimi Antonelli to get his first podium in Formula One. He has been touted since the beginning of his career to be the next Max Verstappen, and this is a great opportunity to show that he is and deserves to be at that high level of Formula One racing, especially at Mercedes. But me and my Tifosi heart,
I don't blame you.
Thank you. I do think Charles Leclerc would be ahead because he has more experience in Bahrain in a Formula One car in a race setting. Obviously, we had testing in Bahrain at the start of the season, but I think Charles Leclerc could get ahead with just what experience he has.
The experience he has, I think, is the big factor. Because I feel even if for some reason we see a little bit of a stumble in the Ferrari strategy department, I think the Ferrari team could still have that capability. Kimi Antonelli has to put the perfect race in to do that. But I will say this, if Kimi Antonelli was to finish ahead of Charles Leclerc, I think he will really start turning heads of, okay, now he's starting to come into this game and really showing his potential. Then the question will become, when will that podium occur rather than if that podium will occur sooner rather than later. For Red Bull, I still can't believe I'm saying this. We're 4 races in, and will they get double points? Red Bull, we saw improvement, both cars in Q3, but 7th and 10th. Max Verstappen up in 7th, Yuki Tsunoda 10th place. Isha, Red Bull double points. I feel like, could this potentially be the weekend, or again, are we going to see a single car in the points, most likely for Verstappen?
It's a 50-50 for me because obviously Max Verstappen, he's starting higher. That car is, I'm not going to say made for him, but it's definitely more suited to him. So he's definitely able to keep that car in the points. But Yuki Tsunoda and starting P10, I don't know. We have to see how the first lap goes and how strategy works out. If Tsunoda is able to stay ahead, strategy calls are excellent from pit wall. Pit stops are great. I think, yes, definitely Yuki Tsunoda can make it into the points. It's just, I don't know. With the P10 star, it's 50-50. Maybe both of them are going to be in the points, but we're definitely going to see one of them in the points. It's going to be Max Verstappen.
I think I'm going to have to agree because we've got some really quicker drivers, I think, behind that are a little bit out of place, maybe due to the potential car as well. And we know that in Bahrain it's a very good track to overtake, but don't count out Yuki. Yuki has had some very strong results in Bahrain in his first F1 race in 2021. He got points on debut, which I have to say is incredible. But the Red Bull is, I think, a lot trickier to handle than previous years. So I think it's going to be a bit more difficult for him. But I was really surprised to see Max Verstappen struggle, because I was thinking, yeah, they're sandbagging Q1 and Q2. They're going to do well in Q3 and maybe challenge the McLarens potentially. But no, that they seem to be struggling with their car all weekend. Max Verstappen in qualifying was complaining about brake problems. There was tailwind going towards the final corner, also turn 4, and also turn 11 and 12. That's where they were finding it tricky as well. Max Verstappen just doesn't seem to like the cars. So I think one person might be in the points, but I think it's going to be difficult for Max Verstappen to potentially stay there. All Verstappen's got to do to get a good result, he's got to be good on the strategy. But we know on the Red Bull strategy department with Verstappen, they're usually good with strategy. So I think it's going to be about strategy alone in terms of where Verstappen is going to finish. I don't think he's going to get a podium, but I think if he gets top 5, that'll be very impressive for him. But Yuki's got some really good drivers behind him, which are going to challenge him, like the likes of you Hadjar, like maybe the Hasses, but we know that Ocon might start in the pit lane due to his crash in Q2. So a lot of work to do, I think, for Yuki, but a lot of work to do in Red Bull in general. It's just a shame for them to be so low down, because they've been so good in Bahrain over the last few years, like a 1-2 in 2024. And we think they were going to do well this weekend, but no, which is a huge shame. But they're just struggling with how the Red Bull handles around this track.
Yeah, the Red Bull just does not seem that happy on the track. Overall, I would be surprised if we get double points for Red Bull. I hate to say it. Just with Yuki in 10th, you got Hadjar, who is 12th. If he has a stellar start, he could put himself ahead, and I think he could just handle his car better, keep up there towards the point where if Yuki and that car and the handling starts getting away from him, he might be in a little bit of trouble in trying to finish into points. But overall, I think he would at least hopefully be in the top 15 for sure. Just got to get that car in the right direction, because it is just not a happy car right now. And Verstappen, I think, is really showing he is just getting the most he can out of that. Two drivers that got something a lot out of their vehicles. The Alpine drivers, Jack Doohan, just missed Q3, 11th place. My goodness. Considering the start of his year, crashing out in the rain, the rumors of him being on the hot seat, the mistake at Japan, with the wing of the DRS closing too late, to come out here 11, I feel like that has to be a good confidence boost. That just, look, I could put together a sterile lap, put myself to the front. And then his teammate Pierre Gasly, 5th place in that Alpine. Really, I think, bringing that car as far forward as it can, because that was just an amazing lap, Jess. Could this be a sign of progress from Alpine F1?
Well, I think it was really nice to see the Alpine car absolutely deliver in Bahrain. And don't forget, we were here for pre-season testing almost a month ago. We would expect, obviously, it to be round number 1, but no, it's round number 4. And we know how the Alpine car handled with Gasly in terms of testing. So in a way, I was shocked to start with, but once it got to the end of qualifying, I was not that surprised to see Gasly in the top 5. The Alpine just handles so much better compared to some other cars as well, which is impressive. And we know that the Alpine likes the much cooler conditions, and it got cooler. The wind was very strong, and we know Alpine handles with the wind a lot better as well. So it was great to see. And I was a bit shocked that Doohan did not crash the car. I mean, it just goes to show that the car, I think it's down to the car handling so much well in those conditions and him getting used to it. I think he's been put in a lot of pressure to deliver over the next few races. And yeah, he's far off his teammate, but he didn't get knocked out in Q1. He comfortably made it through into Q2. He just missed out on Q3 by a small margin. I think he will take that, and I mean, it's a track he's gone on well before in the lower formulas, so it's really, really, really great to see. And if he could get points in the Alpine, it'll be very impressive. So don't count him out to try and score double points for Alpine. I won't be surprised if it's a double points affair for both Doohan and Gasly this weekend.
Definitely a bigger sign of progress compared to last year. Last year, I remember just feeling bad for Alpine, just not doing as well as they needed to. But yeah, they're doing so much better compared to last year. I feel like this is a great sign of progress for Alpine. My worry is if with their engine supplier, this is the last year they're gonna run with the Renault engine, and the Renault engine is sadly going away for Formula One. This is their last year with the Renault engine, and if they're finally making good progress now and then moving to Mercedes, I think they are able to make that switch pretty easily. Mercedes is reliably a reliable engine supplier, but the way they're able to extract from that Renault engine, I'm so happy to see that right before Renault leaves. That's just the one point I want to make, and I completely agree with what Jess said.
It's going to be interesting to see how the Alpine car could work its way to the front. If possible, for Doohan to get some point position. If he gets into points, I think that'll be a 10th or maybe a 9th place, just depending on the quality of the other racers. One thing I'm going to be watching along with Alpine is Aston Martin. I'm starting to sense they're in trouble. Fernando Alonso 13th and Lance Stroll 19th. Stroll had a tough Suzuka race weekend, 20th, not a point contender, so his streak of finishing the points came to an end. Fernando Alonso not having a good start compared to his first season with Aston Martin. Isha is Fernando fails to score points. I assume it might be safe to say Stroll is going to need like a miraculous drive to score any points. Do we start having concerns on where Aston Martin is as a team and their car?
Aston Martin this season hasn't been up to par as we've seen in previous seasons, like we saw in 2023, with Fernando Alonso consistently making on pole position for the start of that season. I honestly think that they're more focused on 2026 with Adrian Newey coming in for the new regulation set. I feel like I'm not saying they're throwing this year away. There's obviously still big chance for points, big chance for prize money and all of that. But with Fernando Alonso, just his steering wheel just coming out, I don't know. It's a 50-50 guess for me.
I mean, I have to agree with Isha. I think they're well focused on 2026 at this point due to, of course, they have Adrian Newey. But again, the money that they get from the 2025 Constructors' Championship is even more important. So the fact that if they finish last in the Constructors is going to look so embarrassing. They're not going to get as much money to develop the car and upgrades post-season, but maybe they want more wind tunnel time next year. We don't know. Maybe that's the purpose. But Lance Stroll was looking so good in Australia and China. I was thinking, yes, Lance Stroll was going to turn a corner. Yes, that's going to be great. And he's been outperforming Fernando Alonso for quite a long time. But Japan, again, he just seemed to not hit them up. And I'm starting to think that it might be due to the car because Stroll is not making that many mistakes. He's not making that much careless mistakes, to be honest, as he used to. So I think he's definitely turning a corner. I think it may be down to the car, to be honest. But I think the reason why they might be struggling is they're putting their full focus into 2026. So I think I agree with Isha.
That would be something else, 2026, if they could really just put everything there. We know they got to deal with Honda. There's the rumors of who could be the new driver there at Aston Martin in 2026. That could be potentially the year where they're going to surprise everyone again, the start of the year of coming out with some strong finishes, but it might be at the expense of 2025. With that said, though, 2025, still plenty of races. Maybe they could turn a corner and start getting some points here and there. It's just going to be a wait and see effort. Of course, Formula One, Bahrain Grand Prix tomorrow morning. Part of a busy race weekend. We've already had the Supercar Series do their first race. Formula E is underway. We got Long Beach, IMSA. Long Beach is also hosting the INDYCAR series, which we're all following, and Alex Palou trying to make it 3 in a row in 2025 with a win at Long Beach. He has not won here yet. Yesterday, Alex Palou was 7th fastest driver in practice, the first practice session. Overall, when it came to today, Alex Palou, again, second practice session, was the 7th fastest. So he seems to consistently have the speed. Qualifying is going to be coming later today. We'll be seeing how that turns out. But since 2008, 16 races here have been held in Long Beach for the NTT IndyCar Series. Most of those winners have come from the front 2 rows, but 4 times the winner has come from outside the front row. 2 rows, excuse me. Palou, 4 starts here. His best finish was 3rd place twice. His other finishes were 4th and 5th. So, Jess, could Alex Palou, the grid ranking leader, by the way, make it 3 consecutive wins in 2025?
I think personally it's going to be, very difficult for Alex Palou to get the race victory. But we know with Long Beach, it's like the Monaco in Formula One, right? It sometimes can provide a bit of chaos, especially throughout certain corners. We've seen major pile-ups in the past as well. He's just missed out on the podium, like you were saying, in a few occasions. But you've got so many drivers that could be in the mix for the race win, which we could talk about later. Joseph Newgarden, he is won here in 2022. He got 4th last year, just missed out on the podium. Scott Dixon, who won in here last year. I think Scott Dixon could have a very good chance of winning this one. But again, will his Chip Ganassi be able to deliver like we saw Alex Palou in the last few races? Of course, there was Carl Kirkwood has been looking quite good as well in Long Beach. I believe he won here in 2023. And he just missed out on the podium again in St. Petersburg as well. So there's plenty of drivers that could be up there that could do well. Alex Palou has struggled to get on the podium in Long Beach in the past. I think it'll be good if he could do it, but I think it'll be a miracle if he could do it due to his history around this circuit. He just doesn't like it.
Yeah, I would have to agree with Jess. I'm also not going to put too much of a statement out there until qualifying. Let's see where he qualifies first. But can he make it 3 consecutive wins? Maybe. I don't know if this is not his most confident track on the calendar, but if he's able to qualify well, we'll see what happens.
Yep.
Yeah, qualifying is going to be so key. I think if you see Alex Palou in the top 3, good shot at getting that win. If he's not there, he shows he could at least bring the car home. That consistency is what gets him to championships. I think he might focus on that. And if things go right, then go for a win. If there's a caution flag that occurs at the right time for him. Now, last year, Scott Dixon won from 8th in the grid. 6 past winners in this race, including Will Power, who was the fastest in free practice 1. Last year, he was not having that great race, 6th place. The last time he won here was 2012. In fact, one of the big things, 6th place finish, that's his best this year. Of course, St. Petersburg, he crashed out, Isha. We saw him at Thermal Club get that 6th place finish. There's been rumors about maybe his time might be running up at Penske, especially with a young David Malukas on a Penske Alliance car for AJ Floyd. Do you think for Will Power he needs a strong run this weekend to show he's still a championship contender?
I think so. He had a little bit of a string of bad luck, definitely in St. Pete. But with other teams like, I want to say, Aaron McLaren, they've been doing really well this season. I feel like he needs to have a strong weekend to show that he is still a championship contender. And maybe we'll see that this week.
Yeah, I think Will Power has not looked good in the past around this track. Either maybe in I think it was 2018 he got second, but apart from that he only finished 6th or lower, which was not ideal for him. So he's got a lot of work to do. But we've seen in the past where in the middle half of the season, that's where he's shown his strong point, and we're like, oh, so he's there. He has a chance at the championship. So we are only in the third round of the season. Don't count him out yet. But I have to agree with the latter half of the question. He does need a strong run this weekend. But I think if he doesn't, I'm sure there's other tracks where I feel like he's going to be he's stronger. He's been looking good in practice at the moment. So you never know. He could prove us wrong.
The big thing I think you really hit up, it's early in the season. It's just so complex because we only have 17 races this year. So we're already coming down to, this will be number 3. We're coming down to the end of the season. Sometimes they try to work on those deals. I feel a little too early. I think they got to give Will Power the time to show he's still a championship contender, because this is, after all, the NTT INDYCAR series. So competitive. We know the consistency Alex Palou has displayed has gotten him those championships, but we also know Will Power has proven he could win a championship with just one race win and the consistency. If he could put together some good, strong races, have a strong summer season especially, I think he could put himself in contention. So I wouldn't say he has the pressure, but he loves to show that, hey, I'm still going to be in this fight. Don't start looking ahead of life without me. Especially for Penske, Joseph Newgarden, he got a win here in 2022. He started second. Scott McLaughlin has not had good results really here. And we just talked about Will Power. So in the times where we feel like Penske and those Chevrolets seem to be the favorite, I'm almost leaning towards Andretti Global. Kyle Kirkwood got a win here 2 years ago. Colton Herta has won here. He loves Long Beach. Marcus Ericsson has good runs here, loves this track. Jess, do you anticipate we're going to see more Andretti Global drivers, those 3 especially, or Penske drivers in that top 10?
I think out of all the drivers, I think Colton Herta and Newgarden have the best shot of actually doing well around it. But I think if I had to choose between Andretti and Penske, it has to be Andretti. Of course, Andretti has looked very good in the past. We've seen Kyle Kirkwood looking quite good in practice too, and we know they could work together a little bit more as well. Whereas we're seeing, I think, quite a few other Penske drivers a little bit further down, outside the top 10. And I mean, the thing that Andretti has been looking good at in practice is the consistency. That they're up there, they're setting some very good lap times, but you never know when like a caution could just throw up willy-nilly and they got to nail the strategy. But if I have to choose between the 2, I think Andretti Global all the way. That will be having more drivers in the top 10.
I do want to preface this by saying this is my first IndyCar season I'm actually watching full time, so I really don't know too much the history of both Andretti and Penske. But just seeing what we saw in practice today, we saw a lot from Joseph Newgarden. He's in P6 in practice 1, and he was in, again, P6 in free practice 2. I feel like they will be able to make it a part of the top 10.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really up in the air. Like, I know in the past we've seen how McLaughlin has not done that well here. This could be that weekend he proves everybody wrong. And Reddy, they seem to really have improved a lot the last season, but if they just have that rough weekend where they're not performing, which we have seen, they sometimes go on a bit of a lull or worse. We all remember a few years ago in Mid-Ohio when all 4 Andretti Global cars crashed into each other at some point with Rossi, Grosjean, Colton Herta, Devlin DeFrancesco. He would love to not have that kind of a weird weekend, but anything could happen at Long Beach. 5 cautions is the highest number we have seen since the IndyCar series started coming here. That has occurred twice, 2009, 2013. Last year, only 1 caution. The only time it has gone caution-free, 2016. Now, Isha, very similar to how well we've seen it in F1, if you know the safety car is coming up, you're going to try to want to make that pit stop as quickly as possible, get that advantage. Seeing that how this pattern of cautions, particularly the safety car, does come out, do you anticipate something where we might see a little bit of unusual strategy, especially if you're up towards the front And well, we haven't had a caution yet. Maybe we should be the first one to pit in case one comes out.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like with it being also a street track, not with being so tight compared to thermal last race, we're definitely going to see
Oh yeah.
some strategy calls being made. I feel like there's a most likely going to be a caution at the start. It is Long Beach. This stuff like that's going to happen. Yeah, I do see some strategy calls being called out, and maybe it could influence the potential win of the race.
Yeah, I think there has been hardly any Long Beach race without caution. So they've got to look at strategies based on cautions to start with, and maybe ones without, right? So they've got to think of a plan A, plan B, and plan C, etc. Because they do not want to be in a situation where they pit and then a caution comes out. So some people may opt to stay out a little bit just to see if a caution comes out. So there's quite a few times where a caution has come out quite early on as well, which because they were all so bunched up. And yeah, I think they've got to nail their strategies right on, and they've got to manage their fuel loads effectively. Because it's a hard one for the tyres as well. It's just there's some parts of the track where it's quite now with the walls, and only one small mistake could ruin the tyre wear as well. So we'll see what happens. But everyone has got to nail the strategy, and they've got to think of multiple plans, I should say, in order to get it right. Because they do not want to be the ones who have to suffer the consequences.
Yeah, strategy is going to be huge, and that sort of leads to what I'm really curious about. This is the first time we've seen quite a while. Aaron McLaren has two drivers that could potentially leave with the points lead in the IndyCar series. Pato O'Ward, second in the points. He is 2 points ahead of Dixon. Behind Dixon by 1 point, Christian Lundgaard, first season with Aaron McLaren, living up to quite a bit of the hype already. Now, if Alex Palou was to go out there and be part of that first lap caution and finish below 25th, only going home with 5 points, that could be the big opportunity. Pato O'Ward, Christian Lundgaard, and of course Scott Dixon in the middle to leave with the points lead. With those drivers, especially both Aaron McLaren drivers, Jess, could you see where, I know we've seen this sometimes with teams, especially if they're brand new in the championship hunt, like they just overthink their strategy too much and they just throw themselves off their own game. But with Aaron McLaren, they're considering their history being part of McLaren. Could you see them just going about the race weekend as a normal, let's just go out there, do our thing? Or could they bring a conservative strategy, especially in case they see Alex Palou has early trouble?
For me, it does depend on their qualifying situation, right? Because if they're near each other, I could see them playing a bit more of a conservative strategy. Be like, right, I'm either ahead of Alex Palou, or then they're not that far behind, so maybe they could just do a bit of working together. That makes sense. But if they just wait for Alex Palou to make a mistake, maybe in some situations it may not be the right thing to do. But there's some points where they got to race, but if they can see they're losing time to Alex Palou, it's got to be a situation where one person may want to help the team a little bit. We know that out of all the drivers, Scott Dixon has did well in the past around it. Of course, he won here last year. But we know Pato O'Ward has been looking quite strong as well. Lundgaard was looking good in one of the practice sessions. I believe it was free practice 2, where he did well. And he finished 9th in pre-practice 1, just ahead of his teammate Scott Dixon. So I think a bit more of a conservative strategy to start with, but they got to pretty much take some risks towards the end if we have a last caution. Because, again, cautions breed cautions.
I totally agree with Jess. I'm not gonna predict a strategy just yet because qualifying hasn't happened yet. But I feel like what Pato O'Ward said, I think in thermal, when he said the Chevy affiliate teams were really working together compared to the Honda affiliated teams. I feel like they can, but it's also because just the nature of the track. If they are closer together, I don't think they're going to be. I hope not. There's like no papaya rules in Indy. But again, if they're farther apart, they're probably the strategy will be less conservative compared to when they're together.
Yeah, if they're both together, that's going to make a huge difference in the strategy. And qualifying, of course, is going to be later today. It's going to be very interesting to see how that's going to turn out. I think that's going to be a big factor in strategy, in everything. The only thing determined right now is, of course, pit stall selection. That was based off the last race results. Overall, it's going to be a fun race weekend at Long Beach, at IMSA. They're about underway. Formula E is going on right now. We all submitted our pick of winners for Formula E already. So let's bring up the leaderboard. 21 folks, including a couple folks that were watching the After Dark that got Max Verstappen right, are on the leaderboard now. So we encourage everyone to comment who you think is going to win. We'll start with Formula One, Bahrain Grand Prix. Isha, who do you see winning the Bahrain
Honestly,
Grand Prix?
I see Oscar Piastri winning with what machinery he has, where he's starting, and just the confidence he has in Bahrain. Not as much Charles Leclerc, but I feel like he can easily go and take the win if he has a really great start.
I'm going to have to disagree with you, mainly because I think that the advantage that to have two Mercedes cars in the top four, I think is going to be one of the Mercedes. And after how good he's been looking over the last in 2022 around it, and of course in 2020 before the punches, I'm gonna be bold and go. I was gonna go with either bold, but literally go with Antonelli, but I don't think that's gonna be possible. I think it's gonna be George Russell to take the win.
George Russell, that'll be a huge win for that Mercedes team. I'm split. Do I go with George Russell or Oscar Piastri? I think I have to give the edge to Oscar Piastri. I just think that clean start is going to be key. If he gets it, doesn't have to worry about Lando Norris being nearby. He could just pull away, grab the win. Lando, he's just going to try to salvage what he can the best. So that's going to give Oscar Piastri the best opportunity to get the win. NTT IndyCar Series, of course, is always a disadvantage when there's no qualifying results to just go off. But at least we have two practice results. Isha, starting with you, who do you think is going to win the NTT IndyCar race at Long Beach?
I'm just going to throw it out there, but I think Kyle Kirkwood has a good chance. Honestly, again, this is my first full-time IndyCar season, so I'm looking at the times right now, and I feel like Kyle Kirkwood has a good chance.
That is a good pick from you, I think. I'm going to go with someone who's also looked good in the past and has been looking good in practice. It's one of the Andretti Global cars. I'm going to go with Colton Herta for the race victory.
Colton Herta has to be a popular pick. I think this is just one of those tracks he's really good at.
Your dog agrees, Kisha.
It's good. I know she's going to go with Mark Marquez for all the MotoGP. For IndyCar, though, depending on how qualifying goes, I'm looking at Joseph Newgarden to get that win. And I think just show like, hey, don't count me out yet. A lot of potential from that Penske number 2 Chevrolet team. Joseph Newgarden is my pick a winner. And with that said, we are all out of time. But a big thank you to everyone that tuned in today, and especially it's a busy race weekend, so we know Formula E is going on right now. So a big thank you to everyone tuning in. And of course, subscribe, hit the bell icon because we're back on the air tomorrow to recap all the races. We're not going to go through all 10 plus races, but we'll figure a way to break them all down. Plus grid ranking week number 2. Monday, grid encore, Ben, Brando will be on the air. Wednesday, grid tonight. And then we'll do it all over again with the women in motorsports. And then we'll be back for pre-race next race weekend, Jeddah Grand Prix. For Isa and Jess, I'm Joe. Thank you for watching today's program. We'll see you next time and enjoy the races.